How's it going, everybody? Coming to you today from the driveway. We're going to be installing the Acerbis 3.6 gallon tank on the Honda CRF300L. From what I've seen online, should be a pretty simple install, so let's get started and let's improve the range of this bike dramatically. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is remove the seat and the front little side fairings. As you can see, I've got a tusk rack on mine, so this requires a 13 millimeter. If you had the factory, it would be a 6 millimeter hex. And then these button screws up here, these hexes are a 5 millimeter. So I've got to remove the two rear bolts of the seat so I can remove the seat, and then I will focus on the fairings. Once you have your seat removed, you're going to need to remove your bolts that are holding the side panel on. I said these are a 5 millimeter. You'll repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Once you have all your bolts removed, you'll look and find several of these little push type pins. There's some on the back, there's some on the front. You'll just have to look through and find all of them. And to release them, you'll push down, and then you should be able to lift up on it. And it will come out. So push down in the center with something, and then you should be able to lift it out. Your two rear tank mounts, and you've got two front tank mounts. They are 8 millimeters, and you'll take those loose. Here's the front mount. So you can take something, I had some bubble wrap left over from a package I received, and kind of stick it underneath the front there. It'll protect everything up front, and then you can pick up and kind of work the tank up on the back. And I saw this from Jake the Garden Snake, I think, channel, where you can take and put something like a hammer underneath the back to give you some room to work. So should be able to kind of lift up here. I think my hammer might be, there we go. Kind of like that to give you some room to work. Okay, I'm gonna have to relieve a little bit of the pressure because it is a little too tight, but here is your power supply, your vent, and your fuel line. You're supposed to be able to push down on the fuel line and pull up. There we go. Okay, push down on a little tab here and then push the whole thing inward. Once you get the little tab pushed down, then the whole thing will go in. Pops up super easy. Next, just get a little pair of pliers. The clamp here is just a squeeze clamp. Pull it down, and then you should be able to disconnect the hose. Just a little squeeze clamp, easily comes down. Vent line's off. Now, the power supply, I've got to drop this a little bit because it's got it pulled tight. So something kind of like that. And then you should be able to push and release the lock tab, and then the power supply will slip off. Just like that. And now your factory tank can come off. Next, we're going to pull the fuel pump assembly and everything out of the factory tank and install it in the Acerbis tank. If you don't want to scratch up your factory tank, put something underneath it if you're on concrete or whatever. I've got a piece of camping mat, sleeping pad, just something to where as I'm working on this, wiggling it around, it's not going to scratch the finish because your tank is upside down and that is the side that everyone would see. So just to save your paint, you're going to need a 10 millimeter and remove the 4 10 millimeter bolts. After you remove that, this is kind of a tricky part. You've got to be careful and kind of work it out slow and turn and twist as you pull it out. If you go too fast or if you yank too hard, you can end up bending your fuel gauge, or you could end up messing up something else. So just take your time when you pull this up. You'll see, kind of have to turn here. Very gently, there we go, and it's out. Now you can take your factory fuel tank and set it aside. I'm trying to be very gentle because I don't want to mess up the paint on it. Move that pad over and put it on it. Now you'll just have to kind of do the same as before, work it in, and voila. Everything's put back in. Make for sure you didn't change your direction. This loop was facing forward. My fuel hose was coming out and facing this way. So everything is the way it was. You don't want to end up putting it in upside down or sideways or whatever. So just be mindful of that and you'll be good to go. Your kit will come with 4 bolts, 4 washers. That is for connecting your fuel pump. Okay, putting this edit in real quick. I reread the instructions and they recommend putting anti-seize grease lubricant on these. That way it won't ever mess up the tank if you have to pull it out. So I am going to remove these bolts, and you don't put a Loctite on it, you put a never seize or a grease type never seize on these. So I'm throwing this edit in right now so that you won't get to the end like I did and then catch it. Hand tight. After I've got each one hand tight, then I'll use my ratchet and calibrated hands on how much I'm torquing it. So once you do that, reconnect your hose. You got 4 rubber bushings, 2 for the front, 2 for the back. And you'll just kind of squeeze and work them through. After you have your rubber bushings installed on the front, you have 2 of these. These will go washer side on the outside of the tank, and you'll insert them towards the inside like that. After you get your fuel pump tightened down, your rear and front grommets installed and the inserts installed on the front, it is time to turn the tank right side up. And right here in the middle, you've got the spot for your bolt to attach to your seat. You'll use the included bolt and spacer and we'll screw this in right here. I apologize for the wind noise. The wind just keeps picking up, but we're almost done. We're right at the end, so we'll wrap this up. Just kind of bear with any wind noise that we get. I still have all of my EPA, charcoal, standard, all that crap. So for this next step, I'm going to be connecting the charcoal vent tube to the new vent tube that they send you via this connector that they send. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but there's an arrow right there. In their instructions, they show the arrow going towards the tank. I would have thought the valve would go the other way, but their instructions specifically show the arrow going towards the tank, so I'm following their instructions. Almost. There we go. Install onto there. Take your pliers and your little squeeze clamp. Get it into location. There we go. And then we will take the new line and connect it. This will be routed up and around somewhere, so I'm just going to stick it up here for now and kind of get it out of the way. So I'll figure out where I'm going to exactly run that here in a minute. For the rear of the tank, you're going to need to use the factory washers, the included bolts in your kit from Acerbis, and the included spacers. All three of those will be attached to the back and the front. You'll use the factory hardware, those factory bolts. I'm holding the tank close to position. I'm going to reach underneath, attach the power supply until you hear it click, and your fuel line, push down until it clicks, and it looks like it's not quite locked in. There we go. So now you can kind of work this down. The two posts here will go up into these rubber grommets. So you'll take and drop in the spacer. You'll use the included hardware and washers. Now these are the factory washers. These aren't included. I kind of misspoke there, I guess. But the factory washers on the included hardware. And we're just going to kind of get them a little snug until we get the front mounted. Now we're going to go to the front and mount it. So here is the mounting spot for the bolt for the front of the tank. And you're just going to kind of work it until it lines up, and then install this front bolt. Get it kind of snugged down, but again not tight, and you'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so after you've got all of your bolts set, you can go down and tighten them. The new bolts are a 10 millimeter. It's an 8 millimeter in the front. And just cinch them down. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You just don't want your tank going anywhere, and you don't want to smash the rubber grommet to where you damage them. There we go. All we got to do now is reinstall our plastics, reinstall our seat, throw some fuel in it, and we should be good to go. Your kit will come with a piece of self-adhesive hook and loop Velcro type, and you can take, and I pre-cut each one to be kind of the size I need, and just kind of push them into place where your existing where your existing little Velcro pieces were, and they will lock in like so, and then just remove the sticky tape off of the back. And then when you're ready, you can just take and put your plastic on and smash down right there, and it should stick to the tank and give you a new sticky spot. Okay, I've got all of my bolts in and aligned. I've just got to put in the little plastic snaps and it'll be done. I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side. This install will be done. Okay, so I've topped off the tank. I will trim this when I figure out exactly how much I want and where I want it. But this is the moment of truth. We've got topped off tank. Turn it on. I heard the fuel pump. Fires up. Full tank of gas. Yeah. All right. So that will conclude the install of the Acerbis oversized tank, 3.6 gallons on the Honda CRF300L. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it works for you if you get one. As always, like, share, subscribe, and thank you guys for watching. I greatly appreciate it.